Let's go to One Nation leader Pauline Hanson live in Queensland. Thanks for joining us again, Pauline. First up, put the border lockdown argument to one side. When there's a lockdown in place, like Anastasia Palaszczuk has in Victoria, in Queensland, surely there's got to be immediate exemptions for kids and their parents when there's hospital visits and emergency recoveries involved. I just can't understand why they wouldn't immediately make these sorts of exemptions from the rules.
It's basically total control of it. I've got the power, I'll do what I want to do, and yet it's imposed on people's lives and their health and their care. And especially down at the Tweed Gold Coast, when we are so closely aligned with northern New South Wales, there's no coronavirus cases there whatsoever, but they deny the children and parents the right to use the services. Even doctors and surgeons have complained about it.
But isn't it Pauline Hanson? But Pauline Hanson, before it even gets to her, there's got to be bureaucrats and others making these decisions. Isn't it just obvious that if an infant is in emergency care in a hospital, the parents should be allowed to come across the border? I mean, this is not Ebola. We're talking about just slowing the spread of this disease. You can be careful. It's just open and shut. Let them in to be with their children.
Totally agree with you, Chris. I'm not arguing over it, but she is the Premier of the state, so therefore she should make the rules and she should tell the Chief Medical Officer what the hell is happening. But I'm hearing it all the time from people. It is a complete joke. It is ridiculous where it's going at the moment. And I'm telling you, this is political. What she is doing is scaremongering what is happening, and people are terrified of the COVID now. Oh, we got to vote for Anastasia because she's keeping us safe. No, she's destroying people's lives, and I think it's ridiculous. This is all about leading up to political manipulation leading up to the Queensland state election on October 31st.
You're spot on. It all comes from the top. She sets the tone from there, and if she set a different tone, then the bureaucrats
Correct.
would be a lot more comfortable making exemptions on themselves. Similar argument in Victoria. Last night, Jeff Kennett told us that Daniel Andrews was a megalomaniac, and today in the federal parliament, the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, who's from Melbourne, had a go as well.
Now, I understand why Victorians are now very concerned by the Victorian government announcing yesterday that it wants to extend the emergency powers for another 12 months. I share those concerns, Mr Speaker, and the Victorian government has to explain its decision. But at the end of the day, we will do everything to support Victorians get to the other side of this crisis, but the Victorian government has a lot of questions to answer.
Josh Frydenberg there. Pauline Hanson, do you agree that Daniel Andrews has gone too far? And is there a problem here where federal governments can't, despite a national cabinet, so-called national cabinet, can't really influence these decisions at all?
Which you know, that in itself concerns me greatly. Now, Daniel Andrews, and I agree, saying he's going to keep the border shut for another 12 months is absolutely ridiculous. As Anastasia is saying, we're going to keep it shut till Christmas. That is denying people the freedom of movement across the borders. Hence, it should have been decided in the High Court with regards to how much power they actually have. This is where I think, I don't know if the Prime Minister can do anything about it, but you have a governor in that state. If there is as much of an uproar from the people in that state, a way they've been controlled by Daniel Andrews, then the government should step in, the governor, step in and throw out the parliament. It's ridiculous where it's going. It's
you reckon the Victorian governor ought to step in and sack the government?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Well, that's kind of outrageous. At least in the Whitlam example, there was a real stalemate in Parliament. This is just unpopular measures at the moment.
It's not, because I tell you what, he's destroying the state there. And how much longer can the federal government keep paying out JobKeeper and JobSeeker? We're going to pass more legislation to actually prop up the Victorian government, not the government, but the people themselves, so they can get this JobKeeper while they're in this process with it. But if he's talking about keeping the border shut for 12 months, Chris, someone has to step in. You cannot do that. You cannot keep locking down one state in the whole nation.
It is an extraordinarily difficult situation. Thanks for joining us, Pauline.
Thanks, Chris.